Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Open Court. I'm Danilo Stanojevic, and I'm joined today with Naoki Gima and Isaiah Broun. And today we're going to come up with our own 5 ways of fixing the NBA.
All right.
You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, so I think to begin, before we get to our points, these are the 5 things that I put from 5 to 1. Number 5, fixing the refereeing consistency. Number 4, scrapping the All-Star weekend.
Okay.
Number 3, get rid of the play-in tournament. Number 2, scrap conferences and make it into one league.
Yeah.
And number 1, rule changes. All right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you go with, Naoki?
I didn't want to get rid of anything. I think it's just more of tweaking the things that we already have.
Yeah.
So I have shortening the regular season.
Okay.
Instead of the 82, maybe go down to, I think we discussed like 70, 65 games, maybe even. Fixing the little management issue.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys taking time off when they shouldn't be, or playing when they shouldn't be, or not playing when they should be. Fixing All-Star weekend, whatever that may be. I have some points on that as well. I actually don't mind the play-in tournament. I just think it needs to be fixed. I think it needs to be revised a little bit, like just slightly. And then changing the age limit to the draft process.
Interesting.
Yeah, so for me, my biggest one, and has always been my biggest one, is making the NBA one big conference and scrapping conferences, making it one big league. My second rule change would probably be eliminating the All-Star weekend as a whole, just completely scrapping it. Third one, definitely eliminating the play-in. It's a lot of what Danilo is saying. I'm just reiterating it, but the play-in I think is completely useless. Number 4 would be creating, along with the play-in, or along with the NBA Cup, creating a NBA lottery tournament as well, along with the Cup, to play for draft picks.
Yep.
I think that would do a lot with, eliminating the lottery system already. And number 5, there are some rule changes specifically that I would like to change that we'll probably get into when you discuss it, but
Yeah.
those are my 5.
Number 5. For me, refereeing consistency. Now, the pointers that I put down, inaccurate calls, video reviews, and biases have been subject to criticism for the past couple of seasons. Of course, it's been an issue for years, but as of late, refereeing seems to have been as bad as ever. The biggest issue is how games are played in the playoffs compared to the regular season, how they're called. Fans want to see more consistency and, in more ways, closer to the postseason probably than what we're seeing in the regular season. Unfortunately, referees have made games more about themselves and their feelings than the actual games. There have been too many technical fouls and ejections. Just this season alone, since the time of this recording, there were 28 ejections alone compared to 29 in early January last season. And some of the technical fouls and ejections this year just have been some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. So my fix is referees need to be held more accountable and, if necessary, fined. Like players, the media should also interview them at the end of the matches. I think it's essential to hear their insights and reasonings as to why specific things were called. And refereeing regulation should be 100% included in the NBA. I think it's literally just a matter of corruption that has been plaguing the NBA for years, especially with referees. David Stern was talking about this years ago, and it's still a thing now. So
Yeah.
I
They
don't
have
know.
their own union.
I don't know how you guys feel about the refs. I think we may be
It's
all in the
just-
same boat, but
It's just hard because of what Naoki just said. They have their own union.
yeah.
They're almost considered like a third-party organization to the NBA.
It's like a contractor.
So the NBA doesn't really have any say, to be honest.
Can they just buy them out?
No.
Damn.
Yeah.
If that was the case,
So if-
every company would buy
If
up
there
the
were going to
union.
be changes within refereeing, it would have to come within the union of
Yeah.
referees.
And
Yeah.
how do you do
It
that?
wouldn't come through the NBA.
How would you do that? You just have to appoint a better
Well,
head of the union.
It's very hard to take down a union or make changes within a union
Yeah.
just because of how strong unions are within the American workplace.
Yeah.
So
But even in the American workplace, you have like CBAs in place, collective bargaining agreements that say certain things that imply certain things.
well, there have been changes, like influences that have come outside the union, like the challenges, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a way for changes to be implemented. It's just not really changes that affect their job by any means.
And then the referee like Union, they put out the 2-minute report.
But a way
after
the
missed calls.
NBA can absolutely interfere with that is a good point that you brought up, and I 100% agree with it. Is interviewing them at the end of games.
I don't
almost like post game press conferences for referees. I think that would be huge instead of just the refs giving their little 2-minute written rundowns that they do sometimes, or 2-minute reviews or whatever the fuck they're called. I don't know what they're called.
Don't the NFL? Don't the referees have to say the reason as to why something was called in game?
No.
Sometimes.
No, they just.
NFL refereeing is almost worse.
Oh, lovely.
Than NBA refereeing.
Yeah. They miss so much. They miss, and they have like 8 officials or something like that. Like they have so many officials but they just miss a ton.
Yeah.
Like a ton of stuff.
Do you think that we'll ever see automated systems instead of actual refs in the next 5 to 10 years?
No, because then it slows down the game. So if you're calling every single little thing that happens,
automated systems would be almost too exact.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like any little hand check, a light would probably go off in the system.
Any little
lift, game stoppage.
Any little lift of the pivot foot, anything like that, any sort of contact with the arm, minimal as it can be, it'll get called.
That would certainly ruin the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
So it's like it's that going that would just be going too extreme on the other side.
I just think that
you also made another good point though about the feelings.
No, that's the thing. I'm sick of
Scott Foster's beef with Chris Paul.
Look, man, I'm just sick of seeing.
Sometimes it gets a little too personal.
It gets a little bit too personal there.
I'm just sick of seeing these guys like get in an argument with a player, and then like look. We're humans at the end of the day. Like, I think the players are just in their right to have an argument with the referee about a decision. Now, does that mean that they should maybe get like verbally abused every time? No, because I think that's also unfair. But I'm sick of seeing these soft technical fouls every single time, man. Or even the ejections, Yeah. Like some people have a history of ejections. We know who we're talking. Draymond Green. Like, I get that. But at the same time, there have been some ejections where I'm literally like, what? Why? What was the point of that?
Yeah.
Like we saw. Was that this season or last season? We saw someone, he like said something to the ref. He gave him a tech. He turns around while the ref was talking and then just ejected him. I was like, bruh, what are we in fucking 3rd grade?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the guy is rightfully pissed off because the call that he had made prior was terrible. So I don't really know. I think the only way to keep them in check is literally interviewing at the end of every game. I think every sport should interview referees because we need to hear why they made the calls. I think it's just as important.
I would like to announce this.
Yes.
Because it was a point that you made. The NBA does hold referees accountable for bad officiating, but does so privately. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has said that the league considers it inappropriate to make these sanctions public. So referees do get fined for bad officiating. They do.
Okay.
But it's private. It's
Okay.
never
It's never
announced.
publicized.
It's never publicized.
How much do they make? Can you look up the salaries of these guys?
Yeah.
Referees can receive light or heavy fines for their mistakes. For example, in March 2024, the NBA fined Minnesota Timberwolves center Rudy Gobert $100,000 for publicly criticizing officiating and making an inappropriate gesture towards a referee.
Referees make top base salary for a senior official is $550,000. That's around $7,000 per game.
Yeah.
The low end of the compensation scale is reportedly around $150,000.
That's fair compensation.
It's a lot of money.
And it's still fair in my opinion because you're making it at the highest level of your profession.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But regardless, so they are fined. And I think a good way to, further this whole issue with refereeing is to then convince Adam Silver to make these sanctions public instead of privately. Because I think the only way for change to really happen is for these issues to be publicized. When you're finding a referee, like how come we get to know when Rudy Gobert and how much money and we get to pocket watch him, but we don't get to pocket watch the people who are actually making the decisions on the court?
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
So
I agree with that.
I also felt that just interviewing them at the end of the games as well would put them in a sticky spot because it's right after the game.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, when you're a referee, you're making decisions on the fly. So why can't you just have a conversation at the end of the game about the decisions that you made, whether they're good or bad? Mm-hmm. I think the public has as much as a right to know as to why. Let's say, for example, why don't we call travels anymore? That goes into I'll talk about that in the rule check. We don't it's very easy for them not to call fucking travel, which happens in every game that I watch nowadays.
I've seen some travels.
But it's very fucking easy for them to give a technical foul to someone who says something to them and says, why did you call this? And they're like,
Well,
You know,
the thing about it is a lot
I
of
don't
players have found loopholes within like their pivots and Euro steps.
We'll get to that with the rule change. But what was your number 5?
My number 5 was shortening the regular season.
Shortening it. So my only argument against that is that we already kind of see players shortening their seasons with load management. So do we really want to see less basketball being played?
Well, maybe that would eliminate load management.
There's not many games to miss.
Charles Barkley said this right. They're not fucking steel workers. They're making $60 million a year. Like, what else do you need to do to play 2 games of fucking basketball?
But that's the thing. Eliminating it would eliminate more game checks because the players get played by game. They're not salary workers.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, they go by game checks. So it's like you want to... It makes
Doesn't it even make it worse in that sense that they're getting paid millions of dollars to play one fucking game?
Well, think about it, though. If you shorten the regular season, it would make playing a game more money.
Are injuries more frequent than they were 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Can you look up a stat to support that? Because I'm curious. If injuries, let's say, were increasing over a plethora of time, right? Then I would maybe be like, okay, maybe there is a valid point to that argument. I don't understand.
According to recent data and analysis, NBA injuries are considered to be on the rise, with several sources reporting a significant increase in games missed due to injury compared to previous season.
Okay.
Particularly among all-star players. This trend is attributed to factors like a demanding schedule, increased athleticism, and the emphasis on maximizing player impact in key moments.
Okay.
This is reported from experts like Jeff Stotts of InStreetClothes.com. He shows a noticeable increase in games lost due to injury across the league.
But what would shortening the season do then, Naoki?
That. Because it's listed on potential causes. The main key cause is factors like a long regular season.
I'm just curious as to what's changed in that time, in that 20-year period. Like, can we get a comparison? Can you look up like the injuries, like how many injuries there were in like 2000? Let's do 2005.
Well, just from 2023, it's already up 16%.
From what though?
Injuries.
I know, but how? I'm just curious to see what's changed because the game is not as physical as it was. Maybe is it maybe because the game is more fast paced than it was 15 years ago? So you're running more, you have more.
I've mentioned this prior.
It's much more athletic. The athleticism is a lot more prominent in today's game.
What's the most common injury? Can you look that up as well or no?
Yeah, I'll look that up.
I mean, I've mentioned this before, right? The stars of today, the big players of today, compared to years past, if we want to call it from the 90s and the 80s or whatever the case may be, you look at guys like Zion Williamson, Cade Cunningham, RJ Barrett, John Morant. They play basketball from 6 years old year round until they get to the NBA. You have all these summer tournaments. You have the AAU tournaments. You have
a good point too,
all these like little leagues.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Also, the longest season they play until the NBA is college, which is only like 20 games.
Yeah, but then even then, like you play your high school basketball season all spring. Then you have Peach Jam. You have all these basketball games you do in the summertime, and then you do training in the fall.
I'm also saying I know this kind of goes against your point, considering the fact that they play all these years leading up to the NBA. But the fact of the matter is the NBA season is so far advanced from the level right below. Like how college basketball, you only play 20 games.
No, yeah.
Maybe more. I could be wrong. I'm just off the top of my head. But to go from that, especially to go from players like Zion Williamson, who didn't play their entire college seasons and only played 1 year, like the Kyrie Irvings, who did end up having a successful NBA career, but Kyrie Irving played like 7
games of his college career
at Duke and then went to the NBA. Like these players are not playing enough.
Do you think
sufficient?
No, but then look at what Zion was doing prior to getting into college, right? It's like he was playing all year round.
That's also a combination of him not taking care of his body.
No, but like, look at how he was when he was younger. He was in insane shape. He was not skinny.
I don't think he was in insane.
He was in insane shape in high school.
He was never in insane shape.
Zion Williamson was a specimen of a human being.
Specimen, yes, but he was never in insane shape.
No, in high school, he was in insane shape.
Wait. Insane shape is what LeBron James has been doing for 25 years. That's
for
insane shape. Like, he was athletically gifted, yes. Insane shape to me is a guy that also takes care of his body.
It's clear that Zion was never taught how to correctly treat himself.
He was never
sure.
Oh, exactly.
Which is shocking considering he went to Duke.
He didn't get big at Duke either. Even going into the draft,
no, it was going to the end. But this is what I think.
That's where you should learn those qualities.
No, 100%.
I think that this also. I 100% agree with your point. I think that
just
this.
To show you. The most common injury in the NBA is an ankle sprain.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which occurs when a player lands on another
Yeah,
player's foot.
Makes sense. I think that point that you said, maybe, like, I think that needs to start from the grass levels all the way up. Is teaching kids how to take care of themselves, how to recover. If they really want to pursue it professionally, I think colleges as well. I don't know too much about the NCAA, but I think that there needs to be something where they fix their diets. They have them recover, and they have like great, training recovery sessions, etc. Teaching them how to take care of their body in the off season. Like if you're an athlete, maybe you don't go out and party as much as maybe everybody else. Drinking, smoking, whatever. But I'm just curious because that's an interesting stat that he just pulled up, and I don't want to keep asking him for more stats. But can you look up what's the age bracket of the most injuries? Because I'm very curious to see if most of those injuries are from kids that were recently drafted, coming out of college.
Look at LaMelo. Look at Lonzo. Right.
Wasn't LaMelo always injury prone? No.
But look at how. No, but even in high school, he was playing every game, every minute of every game.
Lonzo was just a freak injury, by the way.
Oh, but look at Lonzo too. He was in high school. He was playing every minute of every single game.
Yeah.
Albeit if it was a blowout, he'll get pulled. But look at those guys.
There's wear and tear on their bodies.
And look at guys like RJ Barrett. Look at guys like Zion Williams and Cade Cunningham. These are players. Scotty Barnes as well. These are guys that for their high school teams, if they don't play, they don't win. If they don't play, they don't get scouted. If they don't play, their futures are at risk. They play every minute of every single game. Tyler Hero, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brunson.
Do you think then that there should be more of a transition, let's say for example, Adam Silver to maybe invest more in like youth setups, so maybe more investment in the G League, so then as opposed to these guys, let's say, leaving from, I don't know, going from high school to college, that you see maybe more of these guys go from high school to the G League. So then they kind of incorporate themselves and basically kind of nurture their bodies to become NBA players. Because like you said, a lot of these guys were in college and then they go to the NBA, or guys from Europe, for example. Europeans takes them like 2-3 years to build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like look at Jokic when he came, and he's not the most athletic looking person.
This is a study,
but it still took time to kind of incorporate. Do you think that should be maybe something?
To answer your question really quickly?
Yeah.
The research that you wanted on the age brackets.
Where are you finding this?
This is a study done in 2022.
Okay.
So that's the most recent I could find. Irrespective of the season, the higher percentage of unique injuries occurred in the group of players playing in the 26 to 35 age range.
Okay.
Which would be because I would have been drafted in like 2020, 2019, and prior.
Most injuries and missed games due to injury occurred from midseason to end of regular season. The majority of both injuries and missed games were concentrated in two central experiences groups. So,
would you agree with that point, Zay?
What?
I was telling Naoki while you were researching. Do you think that there should be more of an incorporation? So let's say, for example, I don't like comparing.
By the way, I'd like to note this.
Yeah.
A total of 625 players were researched during this time span, and there were 3,543 unique injuries.
Wow.
Registered during that period.
So I was going to ask. Do you think that there should be more of an incorporation, let's say, so as opposed to the guys going from high school playing in whatever club,
college,
then going to college, then NBA? I was saying, do you think that the NBA should maybe invest more in the G League and have kids, let's say they play 1 year in college and they're not ready to go to the NBA, they play in the G League, similar to what we're seeing with Bronny now, who's actually improving from what I've read. Do you think that there should be more kids from high school going into the G League? So then they get some experience as to play. I know it's not the same level, but they also get to nurture their bodies. They also get to work on their nutrition. They get to build their bodies to be basically NBA ready, let's say after a season or two. Do you think that should be incorporated more, or do you think that this route that's currently been a thing since the 70s?
Well, the only reason why
G League Ignite is an opportunity that they have for that.
Well, that's done now.
You can already. Well, it was done because of how horribly it failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was miserable.
Is that down to investment, or is that just down to quality of player?
Not quality of player. I mean, some of the top NBA draft prospects were going to the G League Unite, and
Kuminga,
the
Jalen
G
Green,
League Unite was awful.
Scoot Henderson.
They were terrible.
As a team, they were awful.
They were awful.
It's just really weird. It just seems so top heavy. You know what I mean?
The only reason why I don't agree with that is because financially it doesn't make sense for these.
Well, it was introduced in 2019.
These should not be funded by the league itself. These should be funded by the team.
No. I'm talking about financially for the player.
No.
If
It's
you're-
not.
if
It's
you're-
not a
if
term
you're
of.
a
It
high-
doesn't matter about the finance. I think that needs to be thrown out the window.
No,
I think
but
that these guys just
finance
need to.
doesn't matter.
No, because
Of course it matters,
doesn't.
but they also need to get the experience, and like you can't just be thrown into a thing and just automatically assume. Like, look at how many players have been drafted in, let's say, the last 4 or 5 years. Bar, let's say 15, that were actually NBA ready, and how much trash has come through the draft. Look at the last draft. You know what I mean? Like,
No, for sure.
it seems just like a lot of these guys, rightfully so, by the way. There's more money than almost any other sport in the NBA right now. Like, you would assume that like you also have to put into account taking care of your body
no,
and like
100%,
getting
but
more
it's-
experience in that.
It's also the immediate satisfaction of the NBA contract.
course,
That's
I'm sure.
the draw. It's if you're a number one pick, you get a 2 to 3, 4 year deal worth $10 million a year. That's the draw. A first round pick, you can make up to $5 or $6 million as a first
But
round
also
pick.
think about this now. Think about the NIL money now that you can make in the NBA.
Exactly.
But the NBA
as
is
a top
losing
draft pick.
development from that. That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
Like,
I
I get the
understand.
money is great, but we're losing talent from that.
We're
In
still,
the United States, at least.
we're still very early into the NIL processes in terms of the NCAA because we're not like, and of course, right? Like
It's very new, but it was very necessary.
it was extremely necessary, and that just encourages more college players to play more games to get their NIL deals. That's only what it does because you play a 28 some odd game regular season for college.
For a second, you got to remove yourself from the health of the NBA, and you got to think about these players who are still at a college level and putting their bodies on the line
Of
just
course,
as much as an
absolutely.
NBA player,
Yeah.
and they could have a career-ending injury.
Absolutely.
And it's important that they get especially if you're a top draft pick and you're now getting this $5 million NIL deal, you still have that money to look forward to when you're no longer able to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to also get a college degree from it. So
For sure.
there's levels to it because yes, the NBA does matter and the development of their talent matters, but player safety, player health, and player security should be number one.
Yeah.
when looking at
Also NBA franchises, especially if you're in the lower brackets of the NBA in terms of your standing, they're very, very impatient. They want to draft these 19-year-old kids, freshmen freshmen in college. They don't want to draft a fourth-year senior, a fifth-year senior
I
out of
disagree
college.
with that.
See, but that's the
No,
thing.
but it's because
But
they want to prolong the
No,
rebuild.
no,
They
no.
want to.
That's
They don't.
the
They're not
issue.
waiting for that.
That's
you know?
the issue.
Look at Dalton Connect.
I know. I know. I get that. But then look at
Look at how
guys
the
like.
NBA treated him.
That's true.
He went down like 13 draft slots because of
And
how
I know, but
one
look
of
at
the
all
best
the other
players.
draft picks we've seen prior to Dalton
No,
Connect.
I understand.
Right?
It's very wishy-washy when it comes to that, but I still think that, it shouldn't be detrimental that a player chooses to play more than 1 year in college. It
No.
shouldn't go against them. I feel like they should be viewed more highly in terms of their development and, what they learn from
No, I'm
playing
not saying that
much
that's my
college.
point. It's just that's how NBA franchises look at prospects. Is the older you are, the less malleable you are, the more established you are as a player, as an individual. So they can't look at you as a 22, 23-year-old and be like, "That's our franchise player. We're gonna rebuild around this kid." And that
Which
kind
is
of
ridiculous.
and that kind of goes to your point about the G League is the like if you're in college and you're a freshman and your freshman season maybe didn't go as planned entirely. You can just go through more
Let's
years of
realistically
college
think
as
about
opposed to
it.
going to the G League.
Let's realistically
Which,
think
in
about
my
this, though.
opinion, doesn't make any sense because if the G League is the next level, what the G League should be, right? The G League should be a higher level of basketball than college, because this is literally the last point. Like that's how I think the hierarchy should be. It should be high school, it should be college, it should be G League, and it should be like, in my opinion, they should just do the NBA draft the first round. In my opinion, I think a lot of those second round guys, there's been some gems, no doubt, but a lot of those guys should be playing in the G League because most of them are just going to go
Most of
for
them do.
They should, but there should be more investment from the teams to make it even a better experience for these guys to actually, because most of these guys that go to the G League, there's not enough money into it. The quality is not particularly great, right? Because I just think that everybody is so hyper focused on just trying to get into the
Well,
league.
that's the whole idea, though, of a second round is these players getting drafted. They get contracts from getting
I know, and most of them are two-way and whatever. I know.
It's,
Yeah, and
you
it's
get
also
an
like
incentive for
look
getting
at
drafted.
how publicized and covered
It's
the
also
college
it's an
sports.
accomplishment to get drafted.
No, of
It is,
course, absolutely. And I'm not
100%.
shitting on college sports, by the way. I think I love watching NCAA basketball. It's
No,
very
but
entertaining and very team-oriented.
there's also become much more exposure from just going through more years of college than it is going into the G League.
Yeah.
Right. Look at Caitlin Clark. She spent 3 years at Iowa. Look at guys like Dalton Connect. He spent 4 years at Tennessee.
Well, you have to do that in women's basketball.
No, for sure. But it's not just
3
that. But like now with the NIL, there's more money in college than it is in the G League. You get more exposure in college than in the G League now. So they're like the G League. I mean, at this point, is just like a. I don't even know what you would call it. Like it's just like at least for me, you should just go overseas. Yes. Then go to the G League.
It's unfortunate because we don't see the same talent coming out of the G League.
But that shouldn't be the case, though.
I know it shouldn't be, but like G League has just almost become like basketball purgatory. It's just like once you get in there, you don't really go anywhere.
Hoopers in the G League.
No, 100%. And in recent years,
I see posts every day about players dropping like 40 bombs every single night.
We've seen some gems come out of the G League. Don't get it, Van Vliet, Siakam, Duncan Robinson, Gerald Green was in there first. Well, Danny Green was in there first.
Think about how long ago that is.
I know. But it's just like...
When's the last time, besides probably Kuminga and Jalen Green, that you've seen a real good player come out of the G League?
Andre Ingram. The math teacher.
Yeah, after putting in like 20 years.
All right, next point.
He's the GOAT.
The next one for me is scrap the All-Star Weekend. Now, I wrote, we've tried multiple different formats, and they failed. The only time it actually worked was the year, God bless his soul, Kobe Bryant passed away. But other than that, it simply hasn't been the same. You'd think that playing for charity would make it more competitive, but that failed. If they want to keep the All-Star Weekend, just bring it back to East versus West, and honestly just hope to have them play a little more formidable.
They did that last year. It went.
I know.
The highest scoring All-Star game in history.
I know. The dunk contest also needs to be scrapped, the Rising Star games or whatever, and the three-point contest, while still entertaining, and I did like the Sabrina and Steph thing, it's just lost its charm and its popularity.
I think the only way for the NBA All-Star game to have any, effort added onto it is limit the scoring, which is what they're doing now. Because I'd noticed what they did the year, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant died. They did the fourth quarter where it was first 24 points.
Yep.
That was the best quarter of basketball I think I ever fucking watched in my life. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the system that they're adopting now. And I can kind of see the angle with it.
We just kind of have to see this format
how each quarter has a limit of scoring.
Mm-hmm. I
think that almost has like an incentive to it, because it's not whoever scores more points wins. It's whoever gets to that point first wins. Yeah. So maybe I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Because it's not the worst.
I think a lot of them are not going to like it, though, just because of who the
Well, they don't want to like it because they're all pussies and they don't want to play.
Well, they all don't like it because these guys criticize them every fucking night, as they should, rightfully so. But I have one last point to this, and this is going to you, and we'll get to this point as well. Another idea, and I don't know why I put this under a different thing, but if we do keep the All-Star game and bring it back to East versus West, I think one great way to incentivize the game is that whoever wins the match, that conference, if they made it into one league, they get home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. I think that would also have a big, but I'll get to that point later as to why that might make sense. But I don't know. The All-Star, look, I'll never forget. It was 2011? I was in Mammoth, or 2010. I'm in Mammoth, and I'm watching the dunk contest, and Blake Griffin comes out and jumps over a Kia. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow. I just also feel like everything's been done.
I was like, wowie.
I was just like, I think everything has been done in that competition. Like, what else someone's going to fucking fly from space? Someone's going to fly out of a plane? I think
we're just living off the nostalgia of the competition.
I think so too. I think it's dated, it's old, and it needs to be changed.
Also,
or just scrapped.
We're getting Mac McClung as a dunk contest champion. This is the quality
honestly,
of the dunk.
It was fun to watch because he tried.
That has two sides.
He did, but
that has two sides to it, though, because it's awesome that a G Leaguer was able to come up and make a name for himself.
He did.
Within that, and win some money along with it, too. But also, it speaks volumes
to the state of
the NBA itself.
Yeah.
How there's absolutely no high-flying, huge athleticism, like star player that wants to participate to the point where we have to reach into the pits of the G League. Mm-hmm. We have to look at high school mixtapes of players just to invite them to the dunk contest.
Yeah. You know what
honestly,
else is
we should just have like
that?
7-footers just do it.
You
have
know
like
Mac
Wemby,
McClung's high school mixtape.
Do you know what
Wemby,
else is frustrating?
Kristaps, Rudy Gobert.
Wemby in the dunk contest.
Wemby in the dunk contest would be kind of heat.
You know what's also frustrating is that the All-Star Weekend when we were kids was like one of the most exciting things to watch in basketball.
I loved it.
Every
time.
It was so much fun. It was
So
like
much.
every single time it just felt different. Like even though it was the same structure, you were going to see something that was going to like the greatest dunk contest of all time. We were fortunate to watch, which was Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine. That was literally one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
I thought you were going to say Robert Sacre's Chinese dunk.
That was also pretty fire, but let's not get into that because that if you know, you know.
You're talking about the one from what 20?
I'm going to actually put that. If
yeah,
you know,
where
you know.
he won for actually dunking the ball.
On the free throw from the free throw line.
No, he just dunked under it.
What?
Wait, which one is
Hold
that?
on, hold on.
Robert Sacre.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Zach LaVine
Hold on.
and Aaron Gordon.
Cue it. No, I'll play.
I'm
Anyway.
talking about Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine.
No.
I'm talking about Robert Sacre in China.
I don't care about Robert Sacre
Anyway,
in
that's-
China.
But I just feel like it's almost doing a disservice to what made it special. You know, like remember fucking Kobe, his last All-Star game, and fucking LeBron, he was like there and he was like slapping the ground, and then LeBron passed it for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
like those were the
Drake was in the
moments
shot.
that made it cool, man. Now it's just like Luka like walking as he normally does, and
Yeah,
then,
or Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum finger banging each other the entire
or when
game.
Jokic just throws the ball, LeBron to get the ball out.
Tyrese Halliburton just like chucking
Nikola
up-
Jokic, and they need to stop inviting him to the All-Star game.
I
Him
feel
and
like-
Luka make a fucking mockery.
Can
out
we
of
just
that thing
acknowledge?
every single
Can we also
year.
just acknowledge how when LeBron was picking the teams, that Jokic just walked on LeBron's team?
Yeah.
It's like Jokic. Yeah.
All right.
LeBron. Nikola Jokic.
Ponoć je, ostao sam, opet sam. Ponoć je, nikog nema, koga zna. Srce mi noćas tugom tuguje, jer tvoje reči ne čuje.